Sam Pazuki, CEO of AuMEGA Metals. Welcome back.
Yeah, good to be back here.
Obviously, we only caught up a month ago at Beaver Creek, so it's nice seeing you again so soon. But when we were speaking at Beaver Creek, we were talking about the exploration strategy around the Cape Ray area, which is obviously where the existing resource is, just under half million ounces, around 2.2 grams per ton. It's obviously very shallow. It's all the hallmarkers of something you would want to find, and it's all about scaling up now, isn't it? You were mentioning that you were doing some EM work. I just saw it come through overnight on the Aussie market, and that's why I wanted to get you on today, because it's lighting up like a Christmas tree, and it's structurally very, very similar by the looks of it to the known mineralization you have. It's a little bit further south, but this thing, in terms of its size and the similarities between the existing mineralization, looks pretty impressive. Why don't we just start? Obviously, I've given a bit of an overview as to what you're doing, but why don't we just start with a little bit of an overview as to who the company is, where we are at the moment, and then really the significance, and maybe we can even pull up the press release and run into what the significance of this EM anomaly is and the soil sampling that you're doing, because it's starting to look quite attractive.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Peter. I mean, we're super excited about what's come out of this EM survey. Going taking a couple steps back, when I first joined this company over 3 years ago, from my perspective, just coming in from the outside, it looked like Cape Ray was a very mature area, and what we would see there is incremental growth because of how many years there's been exploration here. But I did recognize, they acknowledge, and in speaking to the team as well as to the board, understood there was a lot of data that hadn't really been analyzed properly or effectively. It's been one of these stories where Matador and all the companies prior to were just focused on drilling and drilling the same things because that was safe and that was the thing to do to keep the lights on, frankly. So it was 100,000 meters of drilling that's taken place through Cape Ray. So anyone coming in from the outside thinks, well, what more are you going to find? And I was certainly one of those people. But I did make the guys go back and have a look at things, put together proper models, see if there's anything that we're missing at all. And one of the things that was a bit of a light bulb moment for me was that of the 100,000 meters of drilling that's been drilled here, almost 99% of it has actually been inside the deposit and has been shallow. So you look at a resource, 610,000 ounces at 2 grams, 95% of that is less than 150 meters from surface. We put some holes in deeper and we were finding extensions to that mineralization. But you needed that. We needed to go back. We needed to take a couple steps back to really properly look at things. And in that analysis, one of the things that we saw was that gold was actually associated with graphite, something no one had actually picked out before. In fact, I don't even want to give us full credit for that. It's something we kind of knew about, but it was one of the geologists at B2 Gold that also highlighted it. So we thought doing an EM survey would be a good next step because when you do an EM survey, it does pick up the graphite, right? It picks up the graphitic schist. It does pick up the sulfides, and our gold's also associated with sulfides, sulfide mineralization. So we tried to do this a year ago, but we ran into issues with getting equipment availability. We had some of the same issues again this year, but we managed to plow through that and be able to get this survey completed. And we're very happy that this survey was completed. Because as we've seen with the results that we've just put out, we've got several anomalies across Cape Ray. So we wanted to see what the central zone, which is hosted in a graphitic schist, what does that look like? What's its EM signature? And do we see that anywhere else on the property where we did the EM survey? And we've got several of those, about a dozen of them, but one in particular is massive. And it's only half a kilometer to the southeast of Central Zone. And it's got a big footprint. And as it always is, the survey where we cut off the survey, the boundary of it, cuts off that anomaly. So it looks like it's much larger than what we see so far.
So as you can see on here, obviously you've got your main deposit, which is like this string of pearls deposit that you can see. I mean, this thing is, in comparison, again, cut off because of where the EM stopped. But this thing is quite huge. I mean, would you mind just walking me through? You mentioned there that within the press release that it's likely that this is going to tie in with a similar graphitic schist, and obviously the sulfide that you were talking about there. What other work has been done in that area to date, if any, that can give you a bit more confidence as to a drill target?
Well, it's really interesting. I mean, the access road actually to Central Zone cuts through this property along the western boundary of it. And for two decades, people have been driving past this area. There's been a handful of till samples that have been collected. Much of that area is undercover, to everyone's credit, from before. But there are a handful of samples that were collected, and from a geochemical perspective, they've produced some very interesting values. About 20 years ago or so, there was one company that collected basically heavy metal concentrates in the vicinity of Central Zone, and to the, I guess, northeast of where that anomaly is. And there was one sample there that had 111.5 grams per ton heavy metal concentrate sample, never been followed up on. And that's right on the edge of this anomaly. Then when you look at the other layers of data that we have, so the company flew high resolution airborne magnetics a few years ago, and you can really see there's some big structures that are underneath this anomaly. And so this is part of the analysis that we've been doing. We're trying to get multiple layers of data to sort of vector in on where these big deposits might be. So we have boots on the ground right now to try to collect some more tills to get a better data set with respect to the geochemistry, or the geochemical footprint. And then we layer it on with the geophysics that we have. Again, we're seeing some major second order, third order structures in the hanging wall. And we've got the EM now. So putting that all together, that then should give us some really interesting drill targets, and we're planning to do some drilling before the end of the year.
Okay. So obviously you've around this area you've found a sample of over 100 grams per ton. You've obviously got the EM work. You're doing some work at the moment. So what's the next steps in terms of you're talking about drilling later in the year? How soon could that be? When could we potentially see assay results back from a drill campaign on this target?
Yeah, so we're putting motions in place right now to be able to go and drill. As I mentioned, we've got boots on the ground right now, collecting some important data to help us vector in on where to drill. Um, and we hope that it'll be at some point in this fourth quarter. The sooner the better, from our perspective. We don't want to rush into drilling because, frankly, I feel like with some of the drilling we've done this year, there is important there are important steps that we might have gone past to get straight to drilling. We've gone back, for example, to Bunker Hill and collected that data to better vector in on drill targets and refine the targets we have. So we do need to go through that step, but our plan, and we're already working on this, is to be able to get in here and do some form of drilling, whether it's RC or diamond or both. So we're looking at the different options that we've got available to us.
Okay, nice. Um, just in terms of the wider portfolio around Cape Ray, obviously this wasn't the only anomaly. But this one does, in terms of its proximity to the existing mineralization and the structure, the second order structures, the similarities between the EM and the mineralization that's known. What are the guys on the what are obviously we've had Giles on the program. You one of the senior geologists there. Obviously Mike Skeed's now a part of the team as well. Like how are they looking at the Cape Ray as a wider structure? You were talking at Beaver Creek, and obviously you would have, I'd imagine, of started getting some of this preliminary data in, and you were talking about getting this 1 million ounce target in the short term. How are they on the ground looking at things now with the bigger picture in mind of Cape Ray?
Yeah, again, I mean, this is something that we've been looking at now for a couple of years. And again, admittedly, I was dismissive of the idea that Cape Ray could be larger than it is. But again, acknowledging there was a lot of data that needed to be properly analyzed. I should point out that when I joined, the company had the strategy to build a starter mine, get it into production, and then use proceeds from that to fund exploration. Interestingly, where this big anomaly is, where this massive anomaly has popped up, what we just announced, was an area that they were planning to put major infrastructure on. So This is the issue sometimes with going too quickly into production. If you haven't really properly done work and sterilized areas, analyzed areas, then you could sterilize an area that could potentially be larger than the deposits that you're mining. So I'm glad we did take a step back. Glad we did look at the data, and we're still analyzing the data. But with the work that we've been doing, with respect to that, plus the EM, plus we had a big till survey over Cape Ray West, and we hope to have assays back from that very soon, so we can put that out into the market. Some of those EM anomalies were at Cape Ray West, and so you layer on the geophysics and the EM and the tills, you start to put that puzzle together. And I'd say the geologists are pretty excited about what we're seeing so far. And we think, after a couple years here, my view of Cape Ray has changed a lot. And I see this area, which already has a resource, a high grade shallow resource, as having the potential of hosting multi-million ounces.
Nice. Okay. Um, and how does that work in terms of your wider priorities? We've spoken on the channel quite a few times about how many interesting looking targets that you have. Obviously, Cape Ray is one of them, but you've got Grandies, you've got Isle of Morts, you've got just off the top of my head, I think you've got Bunker Hill, you've got Intersection, which I really like the look of. Hermitage for me is a super exciting one too. How how does that now work in terms of the wider belt strategy? Is the next 6 months, 12 months really just dialing in on Cape Ray, focusing on where we know there is mineralization, or is there still greenfield work going on at any of the other licenses?
It's both. Yeah, we see some near-term opportunities in terms of growing that resource, and focusing on growing that resource while making discoveries adjacent to the known deposits, but also making new discoveries in areas like this new anomaly, which is only half a kilometer away from Central Zone. But also, our portfolio, I call it the portfolio potential because the scale of it shouldn't be lost on anyone. When you look at the first image we had in the news release, when you look at the broader map of the Cape Ray-Valentine Lake Shear, we stand out. This is a portfolio that frankly should belong in a larger company. And just up the road on the same structure is a 5 million ounce plus resource that's gone into production. It just poured the first gold. And for Equinox, they're fairly new to the area because it came through an acquisition with Calibre Mining, which owned the property before. Before I joined, as I joined, I always said this is the next big mining district in Canada. And the majors are starting to see that with Equinox now there, Eldorado now there. And so I see ourselves as, having the next big discovery on the Cape Ray-Valentine Lake Shear. And for us, it's a strategy of building up a pipeline of opportunities and demonstrating the prospectivity of this belt, which again, we've got B2 Gold that's invested in us, but we also have several other corporates that have been interested in better understanding the opportunity with Omega. So it's really starting to bear fruit. I'd say the only thing that's just hasn't cooperated for us has been the share price, but that's the opportunity that exists today for anyone that's looking for exposure to a story that's well supported already, with a great theme and a great land package.
Yeah, and in an environment with $4,000 gold, if if you can make that big discovery, even whether it be through Cape Ray or one of the other licenses, I think you'll be rewarded for it. Obviously mentioning there as well about that being this potentially being the next sort of, I guess, district or region sort of with huge potential. One of the guys who you've just added to your board who has been on the show quite a lot is obviously James Wivell, who discovered the next big district over in Finland, sees you guys as the next one as well. So you've got, as well as B2 Gold, quite a lot of heavy hitting validation there. What's the just to finish up? What are we expecting this program to look like potentially? I know there's still work being done on the ground, and you've got to really dial in on exactly where the drill holes are going to go. But can you give us any more color on potentially the amount of meters, sort of how long the campaign might last for, when we might get results, etc.?
Yeah, so we are working on that. So we don't have specific numbers in terms of number of meters and specific budgets to do this. The beautiful thing is that we're fully funded to do quite a bit of work. We kept the powder dry in terms of additional drill meters. Again, to make sure we've got the extra layers of data. We have data coming in on a regular basis with respect to the full program at Cape Ray West, but also Bunker Hill. Let's not discount the fact that we just dug up Bunker Hill and we're starting to see some results come in from that. And we're going to go after what's going to give us the best chance of making a big discovery. And because we have a portfolio that allows us to have, basically several opportunities, we're going to be prioritizing a ranking like we've been doing. And we're not going to rush into anything per se, but we're planning to do drilling. We're planning to do additional exploration work to again make the next big discovery. And you mentioned, James Whitall. I mean, James, through the work they did at Rupert, is similar to the work that we're doing now, and that led them to the ICRI discovery, which is 4 million ounce plus resource that's was discovered under James's leadership. And when James retired from Rupert, he had a number of offers from different companies for him to join. He was very selective, and the first one he picked was Omega. And he told me personally that I believe this is the next Rupert. And as you said, there's a lot of brain power here, whether it's external with the assistance we had with V2 and others, but also internal, people wanting to be part of this story. And my conviction after 3.5 years of being here has only grown. And I believe I saw one of your interviews with Equinox that said, the Cape Ray-Valentine Lake Shear will have more 5 million ounce deposits on it. And I truly believe that. And we're doing what we can as a small company to get there.
Yeah, I think with the that was with Ryan over at Equinox. One of the stats he threw out at me as well, which actually quite excited me about the shears, at the whole structure that obviously you and Equinox are on, is I think he threw out a stat along the lines of, when you have these huge 5 million ounce deposits within these orogenic greenstone belts, there's at least a 50%, if not more, chance that you will find another one along that same structure. So look, I think that's a pretty interesting way to have a look at it. And as always, when best place to go and look for gold is near a gold mine. And obviously you're looking at potentially quite a large structure here with this EM anomaly right next to your gold mineralization. So I think that's quite a nice way of looking at things as well.
Yeah, and we already have gold. We have a resource. We're already a step ahead of most other junior exploration companies. Yet we're trading less than some of them. And frankly, with the resource that we have, we don't actually know where it came from, right? We don't know what the source of that mineralization is yet. And that's the exciting part about the opportunity here. And as you said, the best place to find gold is where you already have gold. And when you see these big anomalies like this massive one that's 0.5 kilometer away to the southeast of Central Zone, makes it really compelling.
No, I can't wait to find out what the plan's going to look like when you start drilling and seeing the results. But Sam, really appreciate your time.